Chapter 887. 887. The next day, early in the morning, elders and higher-ups were lining up outside Jin Garden waiting to see Si Han. All of them were dressed in bright and auspicious colors, and their servants stood next to them, holding all sorts of gifts. After going through such major unrest, they obviously had to show their loyalty. Si Han sat on the sofa in the living room while Yi Wanwan sat next to him lazily. What surprised her most was that these visitors were mostly the ones attacking her. "Miss Yi, this is just a little token to show my respect to you. Please accept it." "Miss Yi, you've suffered. After putting in so much effort to take care of Master, you were suspected. That seemingly is simply disgraceful. Please accept all these tonics so that you may supplement your health." Yi Wanwan glanced at Si Han. "Si Han. Accept it if you like them." So Yi Wanwan replied, "Thank you." Although she expected this to happen, she wasn't used to their sudden change in attitude. In the past, even though she had Si Han's backing, he was severely ill and someone else could have taken over his spot anytime. Plus, given her family background, nobody cared about her at all. Nobody expected Yi Wanwan would stay by their master's side for so long. Her status even became more secure. Also, she was the one who restored Master's health. Nothing needed to be said about the power of the Qin family. They were a family friend of the Si family. From ancestral times, many marriages tied these two families, so their relationship was complicated and tricky. All the Qins up to this generation, including Qin Ruoxi, were simply nurtured and groomed to be the future mistresses of the Si family. Everyone accepted this fact. Most of the Si family thought well of the Qin family, but seeing that Yi Wanwan wasn't a simple person, they gradually held her in greater esteem and didn't dare to act disrespectfully towards her. It seemed like it was still undetermined whose hands the deer would die in one. Old residents. Old Madam Qin Feng, Si Mingrong were in the living room. Qin Feng came over that day to put some pressure on them. Old Madam Uncle Rong, the way Master handled this was simply disappointing. The old madam sighed softly and replied, "Qin Feng, I understand how you feel. Ruoxi is a good girl. I like her very much, and if she could be with little Ninth, that'd obviously be really great. But when little Ninth returned, I already made it clear to you that little Ninth would be taking charge of his own marriage. This was the only condition he had when he agreed to take over as the head of the household, so I can't break my promise to him. What's more, I see that little Ninth really likes that girl. In the past, I was always worried that she would hurt little Ninth, but time has proven that she is true to little Ninth. Qin Feng's face turned gloomier as he listened to the old madam. The old madam had told them these things before, but he believed Si Han would absolutely choose Qin Ruoxi in the end, so he hadn't taken her seriously. Who would have thought this girl would appear out of nowhere, and Si Han would make her the mistress of the household? Qin Feng sneered. "So what old madam means is that you will allow that woman to steal our Ruoxi's place?" He didn't believe that the old madam and Si Mingrong would really dare to offend the Qin family. Just how many factions of the Si family were secretly trying to rope in the Qin family right now, huh? It could even be said that whichever faction the Qin family supported would have greatly increased chances of inheriting the Si family. Even though Si Han was the family head, there were quite a few people secretly eyeing his position on the outside. When Si Mingrong heard what was said, he tried to appease Qin Feng. "My good nephew, don't be worried. Master's health still needs to be healed by Miss Yi. It's very common for youngsters to fool around, and no matter how capable Master seems right now, I believe that as time passes, he'll see things more clearly and make the right decisions." Chapter 888. Qin Feng scoffed. "Our Ruoxi has been raised by her grandparents since she was little. She has good social etiquette, knowledge of business investments, and is proficient in the four arts. I dare say that you wouldn't be able to find another young lady in Imperial City who could compare to her. If the master is still going to persist in doing things his way, and makes that lowly woman the mistress of the household, ignoring the engagement between our two families, then he's simply embarrassing the Si family. That's all I have to say." Qin Feng turned around and left immediately after speaking. Qin Ruoxi's title as Imperial City's top young lady from a noble family wasn't unwarranted. If the major influential families didn't know that Qin Rua, she was going to marry into the Si family in the future, there would be so many people at her door asking for her hand that the Qin family's doorstep would be broken. Si Mingrong said gravely, "Sis-in-law, I understand you love Master, but you must consider the family's interests. Master doesn't listen to anyone, and only you can convince him right now. If we get into trouble with the Qin family, I'm afraid it would cause the Si family to end up in chaos and danger once again." The old madam slowly opened her eyes. Chaos. Could it get even more chaotic than before Little Ninth returned home? If it wasn't for Little Ninth, the Si family would have been torn apart long ago. There's something all of you need to be clear on. The Si family needs Little Ninth, and we are dependent on him. And in those days, where was the Qin family? They simply sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fighting one, not offering to help at all. They made the excuse that they shouldn't meddle with the internal affairs of the Si family. It was only when the Qin family noticed Little Ninth gained power that they recalled the marriage agreement between the two families. They stood by Little Ninth's side, merely trying to gain a stable foothold through the marriage. Had it not been for the sake of these so-called family interests and old madam forcing her son into marriage, all these tragedies wouldn't have happened. In order to protect the family, the old madam already lost her only son, and even caused Little Ninth to suffer from a young age. She couldn't allow this tragedy to happen again. No matter who Little Ninth decided to spend the rest of his life with, as long as the girl treated Little Ninth sincerely, she would respect him and support his decision. Old madam was from the Si family, but she was also Little Ninth's grandmother. In the evening, Yi Wanwan and Si Yihan accompanied the old madam to have dinner at the old residence. The old madam stood up and thanked Yi Wanwan sincerely. "Wanwan, Grandma really appreciates you. You took great care of Little Ninth, and if it wasn't for you putting in so much effort to take care of him, I'm afraid Little Ninth would've. If we went with the organ transplant, Little Ninth would have suffered from all the surgeries, even if they might prolong his life for a few years. At least there's hope now that he can fully recover." Yi Wanwan hurriedly stood up to hold the old madam. "Grandma, it's no big deal. This is what I was supposed to do." The old madam looked at her own grandson, then turned to the girl next to him, and appeared worried. "I heard from Dr. Sun that having children may be difficult with Si Yihan's health, but it's not entirely impossible. Furthermore, his condition is improving, so Wanwan, if you try hard, it might be possible." There was another thing she didn't say explicitly. With Wanwan's current status, it would simply be too challenging to enter the Si family. If she had Little Ninth's child, her prestige as the mother would increase as her son's position rose. She would have a greater bargaining chip, and could also win over the hearts of many more members of the family. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Wanwan nearly choked after hearing that. "If I try hard, Grandma, shouldn't you be saying this to your grandson? Isn't the man supposed to be the one who takes the initiative with this sort of thing? She's truly his grandma. She probably knows her grandson isn't very comfortable with that aspect." Chapter 889. 889. Si Yihan glanced at the embarrassed girl next to him and said expressionlessly, "Grandma, I don't plan on having any kids. Furthermore, Dr. Sun already said it's impossible with my current condition. In the future, we can adopt from the clan." Si Yihan spoke assertively and didn't leave any room for negotiation. Nobody knew better than himself that Yi Wanwan didn't like children, and didn't want to have any. The old madam frowned. "This child. Picking a successor is our last resort. Don't you ever want children of your own? What about Wanwan? Have you considered what Wanwan wants?" Yi Wanwan buried her head and didn't cut in. Actually, she was fine with either. Si Yihan said, "Wanwan likes children and wants to have our own. I let her down in this aspect, and will try my best to make up for it." Yi Wanwan was completely stunned. "Huh? Since when did I say that? I even mentioned that I hate kids, right? So." Si Yihan saying this deliberately. He said it was impossible with his condition, and said I really wanted kids on purpose, allowing old madam to think that the Si family let me down. The truth is that Dr. Sun mentioned Si Yihan's body is recovering smoothly, and he'll be no different from a normal person. With that thought, Yi Wanwan suddenly had an inexplicable feeling in her heart. On the way back, There was silence in the back seat of the car. None of them spoke a word. Yi Wanwan rubbed her chin and stared at Si Yihan with a mixed expression. Actually, she was quite perplexed as well. She wasn't sure why, but she subconsciously felt that she didn't really like children. On one hand, she found them troublesome and not adorable. And on the other hand, she also enjoyed her freedom and carefree life. Her ideal life with her other half in the future should be exciting, and she wanted to travel the world. Bringing a kid around would totally spoil the fun, right? Having children was simply too much responsibility for her. However, now that she thought about it, if she gave birth to Si Yihan's child. Seeing that Yi Wanwan was staring at him thoughtfully, Si Yihan turned to her and shot her a suspicious look. What do you want to say? Yi Wanwan's little hand played with his collar gently. Darling, do you like kids? Si Yihan. No. That's really direct. If their future baby found out this was his attitude before conceiving, the baby would so heartbroken. If we even have a baby in the future. Yi Wanwan tried probing once more. What if I really like kids now and really want one, huh? Si Yihan. You do? Yi Wanwan. I meant if. Si Yihan thought about it and after some time, he said reluctantly, I can fulfill your request. Sui stole a glance at the back seat while driving. Master, you look really reluctant. You're really not mindful of your facial expression at all, huh? At night in Imperial City, the place was ablaze with lights. Traffic was heavy and cars were moving to and fro. At a crowded overhead bridge, a man was dressed in an Asian outfit as he sat on the ground and scratched his feet without a care for his image. There were two people next to this man who was dressed like a Taoist priest. One laid on the ground like a dead man while the other was wearing a wild outfit and was flipping through a shabby fashion magazine with great interest. He shouted occasionally when a few people walked by. The three of them didn't make a single sale the entire night, and the bowl in front of them was empty. Aye, Captain, we can't keep on hiding, right? Spray of Flowers sighed. The devotee said helplessly. I thought Captain already had an agreement with Boss Yi to get her to help? Spray of Flowers turned to him like he was looking at a fool. That's the last resort, okay? Little Devil is so smart, as if he would be deceived by a random person. The two of them were chatting when a resounding clang rang out. They suddenly received an entire stack of $100 bills, and it was in euros. Ayo. Damn. Where did this local tyrant come from? Chapter 890 Spray of Flowers and the devotee, who seemed like they were on the verge of dying from starvation, immediately got up. Even the iceberg man, who was playing dead, was awoken by the money. Damn. Thank you, boss. Thank you, boss. Boss, you're a great person. This amount of money is enough to bury my husband 10 times. Boss, would you like to have your fortune read or check your feng shui? I can go to your doorstep. I guarantee my services will leave you satisfied. The people who gave them the money were two men dressed in black. One of them said, You don't have to thank us. It wasn't us who gave the money. It wasn't you guys? Then this money is? Spray of Flowers and the devotee were confused. The two men in black moved aside at the same time and left a space in the middle. In the next second, a little figure suddenly emerged behind the men in black. When they saw that porcelain and perfect little expressionless face, Spray of Flowers and the devotee froze and became like rocks. Shush it. Damn. How is this a local tyrant? This is the little king of hell paying us a visit. Spray of Flowers hurriedly hid behind the iceberg man's coffin. The devotee hugged his head and shrunk while the iceberg man fell backward without hesitation and shut his eyes. This little boy, who was about 4 to 5 years old, had an exquisitely beautiful little face, but the expression on his face was akin to a robot. He looked icy and rigid with only a tinge of luster in his pitch-black eyes. The little boy's gaze swept across the three men and he said, It's been long since we last met. The moment he opened his mouth, Spray of Flowers and a certain godly rod instantly trembled. We don't want to see him. At all. We don't want to see this little devil. Ah. Spray of Flowers. Yes, it's been long. We haven't seen you for such a long time indeed. Little young master. Why are you here in China all of a sudden? Devotee. China is pretty fun. Do you want us to be your tour guides? The little boy ignored the two of them trying to change the subject and got straight to the point. Where is my uncle? Dead meat, we can't trick him. It was almost impossible to trick him anyway. The devotee coughed. We aren't too sure either, Spray of Flowers chimed in. Captain often appears in one moment and disappears in the next. We really don't know where he is. Little young master can return first. We'll contact you once we find Captain. It's too dangerous for you to be here by yourself. The little boy glanced at the two of them. Dangerous? Spray of Flowers and the devotee were tearful and hugged one another. Dangerous my ass. Even if it's dangerous, we're the ones in the most danger. Devotee. Little young master, don't ask anymore. We won't betray our captain. Spray of Flowers. That's right. We will never betray our captain. Little boy. I'll give you guys 3 seconds to consider. What 3 seconds? Captain is at Dragon Burial Hill in the suburbs. The devotee and Spray of Flowers responded in unison. The little boy turned around and walked away. Let's go. The two men in black quickly followed him. Yes. Behind them, Spray of Flowers and the devotee heaved a sigh of relief. Mother, this scared the hell out of us. Captain, sorry about this. We tried our best and struggled for 3 seconds before we betrayed him. Chapter 891 Dragon Burial Hill in the suburbs of Beijing. In the forest, on a tree covered with leaves and large branches, Nameless Nya was suspended in midair on one of the branches with his legs crossed. He chewed on a blade of grass, and was pulling the leaves overhead languidly. Under the gigantic tree, a mixed-blood guy with a big build was filled with worries as he held his head and looked at the man on the tree. Captain, how long do we have to hide here for? Nameless Nya replied lazily, We'll take it one day at a time, brick-moving foreigner. But hiding isn't the solution. Nameless Nya sighed. Little sweetie, you think I like hiding in such a deserted and old place filled with unwanted tombs? Pretending that I have no signal would be too easy for that little devil to uncover. So I could only run to a place where there really isn't any signal. Brick-moving foreigner. That isn't the point, alright? Captain, didn't you say you'd ask Bossy for help? Nameless Nya glanced at him helplessly. Do you really think that ancestor of mine can be fooled so easily like a 3 or 5-year-old kid? Brick-moving foreigner. Isn't that true? Nameless Nya continued. Anyway, this plan isn't quite reliable and it's our last resort. Otherwise, if he finds out I haven't found his real mom, he'll kill me for sure. I'll just drag this out as long as I possibly can and see if I can find his real mom. Even if I can't his real mom, his real dad would be fine too. The brick-moving foreigner shook his head. But we've been searching for almost 4 years. Nameless Nya tossed away the grass in his mouth and sighed. Why am I cursed? Why do I have to have such a nephew? Look at that guy's nephew from the Mu family. He's so adorable and Mo. How could that dumb guy have such a cute nephew when I don't? And there's also President Ji's grandson. He's such a sweet talker. But what about me? I only have this little devil. Little sweetie, am I right? The brick-moving foreigner was stirred up and nodded with agreement. He thought his captain made sense and was about to chime in, but the moment he looked up, he paused and his eyes widened in shock. A phrase immediately appeared in his head. Speak of the devil. The little devil suddenly appeared behind the tree not far away, and there were 2 bodyguards by his side. His icy gaze paused on him for a second, then it slowly turned to Nameless Nya, who was on the tree. The brick-moving foreigner was simply scared out of his wits. He quickly said, No. Captain, I think your nephew is really cute and obedient. He's very well behaved and cute. Anyone who sees him will like him. I've never seen any other kid as mesmerizing and likable as your nephew. At that moment, he had to pull out all the Chinese words he knew that could be used to praise a child. Sitting on the tree branch, Nameless Nya felt a sudden chill down his spine, but he didn't think much of it. He looked at his team member with shock. Damn. Little sweetie. Have you been in the burial hill for too long that a ghost possessed you? How could you say such things that go against your conscience? The brick-moving foreigner was extremely anxious. He hurriedly waved his hand towards Nameless Nya, hinting at him to stop talking completely. However, Nameless Nya didn't pick up the distressed cue from his own team member, and continued cursing. Chapter 892 Nameless Nya. Have you met a child so unappealing? He is simply a little devil who made his way to Earth. The little devil said softly. Devil? Nameless Nya didn't realize who spoke and nodded his head. Exactly, he's a little devil. Do you know the abyss of suffering I've gone through in the Nya family all these years? Little sweetie, let me tell you, there's no use even if we found his parents. He's so savage that his parents wouldn't acknowledge him for sure. Upon hearing this, the brick-moving foreigner covered his face and held his forehead. He had completely given up on rescuing his captain. The little devil's jet-black eyes narrowed and he spoke slowly, emphasizing every word. Is that so? So this is what Uncle thinks, huh? Once that childlike voice rang out, Nameless Nya was completely stunned as he hovered on top of the tree. He finally realized that the voice of the person who spoke just now didn't seem right, and his stiffened neck creaked as he looked down from the tree. In the next second, he saw his little ancestor who was supposed to be more than 1,000 miles away. The little devil whose parents wouldn't acknowledge him. It was truly his real ancestor appearing right before him. Fuck. A miserable shout reverberated at the top of the hill. Bang! Nameless Nya fell to the ground from the tree and landed harshly on a bed of leaves. Nameless Nya gritted his teeth and looked at the brick-moving foreigner. Little sweetie, why didn't you tell me? Little sweetie looked very innocent. I did, but you didn't care. Nameless Nya pounded the ground with anger and looked at that icy little face. How did you find me? Your stalking skills reached this level. Damn. Are you even human? The little devil looked condescendingly at Nameless Nya, who was on the ground. Do I need stalking skills to find you? Nameless Nya was enraged. Hey, don't look down on me. Let me tell you this. Up till now there's no one who can break my record in hiding. As long as I don't want anyone to find me, nobody would be able to. Nameless Nya spoke with great confidence. Little devil. Someone told me where you were, so I don't need to try to break your record. Nameless Nya was dumbfounded. What? Someone told you? Could it be? No, that's impossible. Each of our team members is very honest and reliable. They would never be swayed by money and definitely wouldn't give in to evil forces. The moment Nameless Nya said that, a phone rang. Little Devil answered the call with an expressionless face. Hello. What's the matter? The man's extremely bewitching voice came through the receiver. Hello, little young master. It's me, the devotee. It's nothing much. I just wanted to see if you found Captain. That place is quite secluded, so I better give you the details. After you reach the top of the hill, turn right, then walk 500 meters, then turn left. After that, the devotee wasn't done speaking when someone else snatched the phone away from him. Io, are you stupid? You darn godly rod, move aside. Little young master, this is Little Flower. I've already drawn Captain's position on a map and sent the image to your phone. Please take a look. Nameless Nya, brick-moving foreigner. Nameless Nya went blank for a full 10 seconds before he snatched the phone. You two bastards. How dare you betray me? Wait and see. Chapter 893. 893 Cries. Whales spray of flowers and the devotee were startled by Nameless Nya's sudden roar of anger. Ha, glad you found him, Captain. Why do you say that? You can't call this betraying you. We're clearly trying to help your family get back together. Captain, have a great bonding session. That's right, Captain. We won't disturb you any further. We'll hang up first. Good night, Captain. The two of them then hung up without hesitation. Nameless Nya. Good night, your father. After yelling, Nameless Nya suddenly realized the air around him had turned colder. Then he saw his little ancestor's face becoming extremely frosty. Nameless Nya knew he had completely infuriated the little devil this time. Not only did he fail at finding his parents, but he even hid from the devil on purpose. Nameless Nya. Big shot, what exactly do you want, little devil? Have you found my mother? Nameless Nya. Seriously, this line brings tears to my eyes. Now I even have nightmares at night, dreaming that the demon whispers this exact sentence in my ear. Seeing that Nameless Nya didn't respond, the little devil pulled up a video. There was no gentleness in his voice at all as he said, Uncle, I am sorry. When he heard these 3 words, I am sorry, Nameless Nia's hair stood on end. He stared at his phone and shouted out loud to stop him. Don't. Ancestor. Please give me a chance. Let's talk this over. Ancestor. Baby. The cutest and most well-behaved baby in the universe. The little devil's face didn't change at all, and it didn't look like there was any room for negotiation. Uncle, time is up and you're left with no more chances. With that said, his thumb reached for the send button. Seeing that the little devil was about to send that video of him and spray of flowers. Stop. I found your mom, Nameless Nia yelled, and his voice kept reverberating throughout the empty woods. The little fellow paused for a moment. Even his little thumb stopped in midair. Seeing that devil finally stopped what he was about to do, Nameless Nia looked like he was given a new lease on life. That scared the hell out of me. If this video was sent out, he might be skinned alive by his parents. Nobody would believe what he said. They would only believe this little devil. His status in the family was truly pathetic. The little fellow kept quiet for a long time. Then he looked at Nameless Nia firmly with his clear and bright eyes. Take me to meet my mommy. Nameless Nia forced the guilt down and hurriedly said, Cough baby, don't be so anxious. Even if you didn't say it, I was definitely going to take you to see her. But I need a little more time to collude. I need a little more time to prepare and welcome you, right? Actually, I didn't want to tell you so I could give you a surprise. Look, now there's no surprise, little devil. I don't need it. Nameless Nia racked his brain. Then you have to at least prepare a little, right? Make yourself more presentable to see your mother. From what I know, your mom's extremely gorgeous. Of course, I don't mean it in a negative way. You're so adorable and your mom will definitely love you regardless, but isn't it good to allow your mom to love you more? Little devil nodded. Sure. Nameless Nia was so elated that he was close to tears. The little devil was finally willing to listen to him. After speaking, the little devil looked at him. Don't tell my mother that I'll be seeing her. Huh? Why? Nameless Nia didn't get it, and was prepared to collude with Famous Yi in advance. What if something went wrong? Little devil. Didn't you want to make it a surprise? That isn't a bad idea. I want to give my mother a surprise. Nameless Nia. Chapter 894. Nameless Nia really wanted to kill himself. Why did I even suggest a surprise? How would that be a surprise? She'll be completely scared, alright? I really dug a grave for myself. Imperial City Victory Grand Hotel. Nameless Nia. It's really late. Aren't you going to bed yet? Little devil. Jet lag. Nameless Nia. Oh, Nameless Nia. Just how many sets of clothing did you bring? Why do your outfits look the same? Just choose one. Hurry up and sleep once you're done choosing. I have to send a secret message to someone, okay? Little devil. I'm meeting my mom. How could I be careless about it? Nameless Nia. Thanks to his nephew, after sleeping under bridges and streets for so long, Nameless Nia finally slept in a president's suite. However, he really wasn't in the mood to enjoy it since he was sharing a room with the little devil. From the time they left Dragon Burial Hill, he had been looking for a chance to send a secret message to Yi Wanwan. But he hadn't gotten the chance to do so yet. It was too risky to play tricks right under the little devil's nose. If he found out and saw through their act, it would be over for them. In the end, Nameless Nia realized his only choice was to allow Famous Yi to freestyle and act on her own. Famous Yi, my little life is in your hands. These 2 days, Yi Wanwan had been entertaining batches after batches of relatives and higher-ups. At nighttime, she could finally rest a little and check the company's WeChat quickly. Yi Han had just finished showering, and he walked out of the bathroom. He laid next to Yi Wanwan and read his documents without bothering her. Although his existence was enough to bother her already. Yi Bai, sorry everybody, I've been busy due to some personal matters so I couldn't attend the script meeting. Yi Mu Fan. Don't worry, I'm looking after the company here. But what have you been busy with, huh? She must have gone out to play with that wild man. Yi Wanwan was chatting with Yi Mu Fan and Han Xianyu about work when Gong Su messaged her privately all of a sudden. Gong Su, Yi Ji, huh? You're finally back. I'm going to die holding this in. There's some juicy gossip. Extremely juicy, eh? Yibai, what gossip? Are you coming out of the closet, or is megastar Xie about to get married? Gongsu, Yiji, why do you talk exactly like Felix, huh? I'm not coming out of the closet and neither is megastar Xie about to get married. It's about Si Han. That legendary Si family's master, Si Han, died from an illness a few days ago. Did you know? Yi Wanwan looked at the private chat with Gongsu, then glanced at Si Han, who just came out of the shower with his hair still damp and wearing pajamas. Then she decided to send Gongsu an emoji that read, dragging a 40-meter-long knife. Gongsu sent an emoji covering its face with a handkerchief and acting shy. Then he replied, Gongsu, Yiji, why do you want to chop someone up? Yibai, hurry and delete them all. What nonsense are you talking about? Didn't the Si family already confirm that Si Han's fine? Gongsu, oh Yiji, you've also been paying attention to this, huh? I'm not talking nonsense, There's quite a hubbub about this and everyone in the upper class knows about it. If it wasn't for what happened to Si Han causing an upheaval in the Si family, this kind of news would never have spread. In summary, according to my opinion, Si Han is definitely dead. The Si family is worried it'll lead to chaos, so they quickly eradicated all the related news, then lied to the world that he's still alive. Gongsu analyzed it clearly and logically, and was very confident about his own conclusion. Yi Wanwan looked at the word dead, and really wanted to punch someone in the face. She gritted her teeth and replied with one sentence. Chapter 895. 895. Si Han heard the gritting of Yi Wanwan's teeth, and tilted his head to look at her, then his eyes inadvertently landed on her phone screen. All he saw was Yi Wanwan typing furiously. Yibai, I think he's living well and fine though. Gongsu, how are you so sure, Yiji? Is it your prediction again? Yibai, because he's on my bed right now. Si Han. Gongsu. Gongsu crashed instantly. Si Han looked at the way she was gritting her teeth, and a tinge of gentleness and warmth came over his face. After about 10 seconds, Gongsu finally managed to climb back up. Gongsu, Yiji, it's fine if you just joke around with me about this. We're all men and I understand. But don't ever let your boyfriend find out about it. Let me tell you, sometimes a man's jealousy can be scarier than a woman's. Yi Wanwan tossed her phone aside and ignored Gongsu's babbling. This guy has a crow's beak. He can't say anything nice. Dead. How unlucky. Si Han stretched his arm and stroked her head softly. Doesn't matter what others say. Si Han recalled what Yi Wanwan said to Si Mingli when they were in the dark chamber. Live till your coffin rots. Yi Wanwan nodded. That's right. We have to believe in science. Dr. Sun already said that if we continue like this, your condition will improve, and you'll be completely fine. And Mo Xian said she was Si Han's point of balance, and if that was the case, she definitely wouldn't have any problems on her end. Aside from managing her company every day, she would be learning by Si Han's side. She would only go to school occasionally to accumulate the course credits she needed, and her life and circle of friends were very simple. Her relationship with Si Han was also more stable now, so there was definitely nothing in her life that could break this point of balance. Not long afterward, Yi Wanwan received a lesson that left a deep impression on her. You can't simply set up a flag on this guy. Si Han placed down the document in his hands. Go to bed. When Yi Wanwan heard that, she blinked. Ah, we're going to bed just like that? We're not doing anything? Si Han looked at her plainly. What do you want to do? Yi Wanwan rubbed her chin and blinked. Although you don't want to have kids, don't you like the process of making them? Isn't your condition more stable now? Did Dr. Sun say we can't do it? She was just afraid Si Han's condition would worsen. A hot flash appeared in Si Han's eyes, but it was instantly put out, and the iciness was restored. After that, Si Han said expressionlessly, Dr. Sun said we can, but we need to take note of the time. Ah, how long? Yi Wanwan asked. Si Han glanced at her. The look on his face made her want to clench her teeth instinctively. Then she heard Si Han's reply. 10 minutes. Yi Wanwan expressed her sympathy as she said, let's just sleep then. With Si Yihan's physical strength, how could they do it within 10 minutes? The next morning, as usual, Yuanwan woke up early to exercise. She wasn't sure why, but what Si Xia said that day bothered her a little. 11, who was exercising with her, saw that Yuanwan wasn't herself, so he asked out of concern, "Miss Wanwan, are you okay?" Yuanwan spat out the grass in her mouth and immediately raised her head and asked, 11, let me ask you something. Are my skills useless? 11. Huh? Did I hear her wrong? I'm asking you, am I very useless? Yuanwan thought he hadn't heard her, so she repeated her question. Chapter 896. This question made 11 stunned for a long time. After some time, 11 came to his senses and hurriedly said, Miss Wanwan, how could that be? Did someone gossip and spread rumors? Don't listen to them. They were all defeated by your hands. How could anyone be so shameless to say you're useless? If your skills are considered useless, what about us then? 11 got Feng Xianyi involved. Captain Feng, am I right? Feng Xianyi nodded sincerely and indicated his agreement. Yes, teacher is amazing. Yuanwan sighed. However strong someone is, there will always be people who are stronger. Yuanwan recalled the killers she met when she just returned from Myanmar, and that white-haired man who appeared from nowhere. If it wasn't for that strange white-haired man that night, she wouldn't have been able to deal with those killers with her current abilities. When Feng Xianyi heard that, his eyes lit up and he stuttered. Even though that's true, but teacher is already really good compared to ordinary people. Yuanwan looked at Feng Xianyi, interested in hearing more. Ordinary people? Then who are the abnormal people? Feng Xianyi pondered his answer. For example, a few secret family clans. Yuanwan, secret family clans? When 11 heard that, he started to explain further. For instance, martial arts families. Following the decline of the cold weapons era, it was a common belief that martial arts had declined, when in fact, there were still many ancient martial arts aristocratic families all over the world with unfathomable strength. Miss Wanwan, look at us. We're the so-called secret agents who were secretly groomed by aristocratic families. We may look very powerful, but to a real secret family clan, or to an ancient martial arts aristocratic family, we're probably no different from child's play. Yuanwan listened attentively and asked, do these secret family clans and ancient martial arts aristocratic families really exist? 11 explained. It's said that in foreign countries, the power of such a secret family clan is so terrifying that they could outpower the nation. But this is all beyond the knowledge of ordinary folks, so naturally, no one really knows, not even us, it's all hearsay. Looking into the distance, Feng Xianyi murmured, to ordinary people, the world they know really isn't the complete picture. Yuanwan glanced at Feng Xianyi. Well, take a group of mercenaries for example. In China, mercenaries were forbidden and such groups weren't allowed to exist, but ordinary people didn't even know what a mercenary did. There were so many mercenary groups in the world. After chatting for some time, Yuanwan concluded training for the day. She had an etiquette lesson with Si Yihan that night, so she had to conserve some energy. Oh right, I heard the Si family has to host that Mr. Mu next month. He doesn't have a simple background, does he? Yuanwan simply asked in passing. 11 thought for a bit and replied, that Mr. Mu seems like an average businessman on the surface, but it's rumored that he's enigmatic and impossible to predict. No one really knows what he does, and the Qin family has always been quite interested in establishing a relationship with him. I see. Yuanwan rubbed her chin and mumbled to herself, Mu Suifeng. Why does this name sound somewhat familiar, huh? Yuanwan waved off the uneasy thought in her head, took a shower and headed to the office. Chapter 897. 897. Late at night. On the leather sofa, seemingly glanced coldly at his confidant. Have the arrangements been taken care of? Old master, don't worry. The people I dispatched are experts hired at a high price. No matter how skilled that woman is, she could never fend off so many attackers. Anyway, they're all hired fighters, so we don't have to appear in person at all. It'll be done in complete secrecy and nobody will know it's us. Si Mingli said sternly. Are you sure there's nobody by that woman's side protecting her? His confidant replied firmly, I already double-checked. The house where that woman lives only has 5 servants. Aside from the bodyguard who might have some martial arts skills, the others are all old, weak and sickly. They're not a threat at all. Since Si Yihan will be going overseas soon with the Mu family, it's the best chance for us to strike. Si Mingli's face darkened. Do a clean job and remember, I want her alive. Yes. After his confidant left, Si Yiqian, who was sitting on the opposite sofa, said, Father, are you sure you want to capture that woman to threaten Si Yihan? Si Mingli sneered coldly and said frostily, That bastard Si Yihan was so harsh this time. If we don't retaliate, he'll really think we can be easily bullied. No matter how useless Yijie is, he's still my son. I really can't stand that young guy and little slut always humiliating us. I want to see how important this woman is to Si Yihan, and how far he'll go for her. Si Mingli looked at his second son and said confidently, Yiqian, I know you're careful, but the mercenaries I hired this time were all C grade and above. It'll be difficult for that woman to butt in. The ranking of mercenaries in descending order was S, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Anyone who could join a mercenary group was highly skilled. It was exorbitant to hire an A-ranked mercenary, and an S-ranked mercenary was akin to a phoenix feather and unicorn horn. 1. Even if you had money, that didn't mean you would be able to hire them. Even the lowest-ranking ones came at a high price, not to mention how Si Mingli offered a high price to hire 3 C-ranked mercenaries. Using C-ranked mercenaries to capture that woman could be considered as viewing her with high regard. With that thought, Si Yiqian felt at ease. As Si Yihan was going overseas to discuss business, Yi Wanwan returned to the little house of Rose. There was a fresh floral scent in the little house, and everything was silent and peaceful as usual. Yi Wanwan went upstairs to shower after she had her meal. The housekeeper, old Jiang, was carefully inspecting the doors and windows. Fatty Heidi was cleaning up the kitchen while stealing some food, and long-haired Tang Bin and bearded man Song Chong were trimming the flowers and lazily patrolling the area. The Lolita maid, Jiao Jiao, was drooling as she clutched her phone and eagerly ogled a melodramatic idol drama series. In the shadows of the yard, 3 figures approached them silently. The leading mercenary said, There's an old man, a chef, and a little maid inside the house. They all don't have any fighting abilities. Only that gardener and security guard are middle-aged men. We'll deal with those 2 first. The other mercenary next to him nodded, indicating agreement. All right then. Joe, you go upstairs and Mac will deal with that chef. I'll go deal with those 2 men. Okay. The 3 of them were about to take action when one of the mercenaries suddenly stared at the 2 men not far away and revealed a suspicious look. Wait. Why did he feel that the long-haired gardener and bearded security guard looked so familiar, like he had seen them somewhere? Huh? What is it? The person next to him asked. The mercenary shook his head and quickly withdrew his conjecture. Nothing much. Let's act according to the plan. Chapter 898. Yi Wanwan went downstairs after showering. In the end, she saw little Lolita sitting on the sofa, crying her eyes out. Jiao Jiao, what's going on? Little Lolita sobbed. Master, in this drama series, the female lead contracted a terminal illness and the male lead died with her in the name of love. It's too sad. Master, this male lead acts really well, it's so touching. Yi Wanwan peeked at little Lolita's phone and was speechless. The male lead was actually Gong Su. It was one of the most exaggerated melodramatic drama series Gong Su had acted in during his early years. His acting was very awkward, yet this girl watched till she cried. Continue watching then. Yi Wanwan took the disc and was about to head back upstairs when the fatty walked over attentively. Master, the supper for tonight is spicy crayfish. Please wait a moment. It'll be ready very soon. Yi Wanwan sniffed the alluring fragrance in the air and lowered her head to look at her waistline. After these guys realized that using a beauty trap wouldn't work, they started to change their strategy and bombarded her with delicacies instead. Her clothing size was just about to increase now. Thankfully, Yi Wanwan forced herself to work out every single day. Otherwise, she would definitely return to being as fat as before. At the same time in the yard, The three mercenaries had divided the tasks, and after they were certain of the situation in the yard, they strode over and directly climbed over the wall. After the two mercenaries left, the leader pushed aside the shrubs quietly and headed in the direction of the long-haired man and bearded man. Alas, when the leader stretched his arms out to part the branches in front of him, two heads suddenly appeared before him, and his two targets were squatting there, staring straight at him. The long-haired guy got excited. Ayaya Changji, look. There really is a little thief here. Changji, you're amazing. Bearded man. Of course. You guys. The mercenary was shocked, but he was well trained and calmed himself down very quickly. He still looked brave upon being noticed. TSK, they actually think I'm a little thief? Seriously, ignorant people have no fear. The old housekeeper was patrolling the area and walked past them when he saw the mercenary who broke inside. He was momentarily stunned as well and said, "What happened? Who is he?" The long-haired man and bearded man shrugged their shoulders. "Who knows? Why don't we take him in and see what he says?" Finally, in the living room, the 5 servants were all held back. Yi Wanwan was sitting on the sofa, waiting for her supper. She hadn't expected 3 men in black shirts to come to her instead. They even captured her little crayfish. Oh wait, her 5 subordinates too. Ah, master, Jiao Jiao is terrified. Don't kill me. Don't kill Jiao Jiao. Little Lolita was grabbed by the neck by a ferocious-looking mercenary, and she was crying fearfully. Meanwhile, the fatty had a plate of little crayfish in his hand with a sharp knife pointed at his back. The long-haired man, bearded man and old housekeeper were also brought inside, and were monitored by the side. "All of you, shut your mouths and give me some peace. You're not allowed to make any noise. I can allow all of you live. This has nothing to do with you guys, understand?" The leader of the mercenaries bellowed out sternly. The mercenary who had the fatty with him glanced at the servants who couldn't fight back at all and mockingly said, "TSK, this was such an easy mission, yet they hired 3 of us C-rank mercenaries." When Yi Wanwan heard that, she looked at the 3 men and her expression was indescribable. A 3 C-rank mercenaries. Chapter 899. 899. When the little Lolita heard that, she started sobbing and wiped her tears. "Master, Jiao Jiao is about to die. I can't be by your side anymore. When I'm no longer with you, you must eat well and sleep well, all right?" The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched like she was about to collapse. Isn't this a line from that melodramatic series she was watching just now? The mercenary behind little Lolita swept his gaze across the 5 servants, and thought they looked pretty familiar. But he just couldn't recall where he saw them before. Although he found them quite familiar, he didn't dwell on it and focused on completing the mission instead. The mercenary noticed little Lolita had the closest relationship with Yi Wanwan, so he grabbed her neck and looked gloomily at Yi Wanwan, who was on the sofa. He threatened, "Miss Yi, we don't want to create more problems, so I advise that you cooperate with us and follow us back. Otherwise, we might have to sacrifice a few lives for nothing." Yi Wanwan didn't bother with the bunch of actors and looked at the mercenary, aiming to fish out more information. "Who sent you guys over?" Judging by these people's skills and ranks, they were definitely a different batch from the ones who tried to knock her out on the road. The leader looked at her condescendingly. "Miss, I think you don't know what's going on here, and we have no obligation to answer your question." "Seemingly? Or Qin Ruashi?" Yi Wanwan continued interrogating. The other party's eyes turned cold. "I already said we have no obligation to answer your question." He then looked at the time on his watch in annoyance. "Please." Yi Wanwan chuckled. "Forget it then. I just wanted to find out who had such a deep hatred against the 3 of you. What are you trying to say? Stop dragging things out." The leader was losing his patience as his palm headed for Yi Wanwan directly. However, before he could even get close to her, the old housekeeper protected Yi Wanwan and stood in front of her. "Outrageous. You're not allowed to be rude towards her." The mercenary's eyes were frosty. "You old thing, don't you understand what I said? If you don't want to die, shut the hell up and get away. And you guys, get over there and form a line. Hold your heads down and squat there. Don't get in my way." The other mercenary looked disdainfully at the servants in the room. A bodyguard who didn't dare to fight back at all. A fat chef holding a plate of crayfish like a dumbass. A maid who kept weeping and an old man about to enter his grave. TSK, they could have simply hired a couple fighters to deal with such nobodies. Why did they have to hire mercenaries? I don't even feel like laying my hands on them. One of the mercenaries named Joe reluctantly attacked the bearded man, who seemed to be the most skilled in the group. A swish resounded. He actually missed. The little bodyguard actually managed to intercept his fist halfway, and he wasn't even sure what moves the bodyguard used. Meanwhile, a terrifying and deadly aura that could never come from a little bodyguard started to pour down in torrents. Fear crept up in Joe's heart as he acutely sensed the danger. You. The other two mercenaries frowned when they saw what was happening. Joe, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Deal with him right away. The mercenary tried to retract his arm, but he couldn't move an inch. He was panicking so badly that cold sweat was trickling down his forehead. The bearded man held onto that mercenary's fish and turned to his partner, who had his arms crossed and was waiting for a good show. Baby, did you hear that just now? The three of them are mercenaries, Chapter 900. The long-haired man chuckled. Changji, of course I heard that. The bearded man laughed weirdly. Ha, we thought he was a little thief at first. Didn't expect that we'd meet someone in the same profession. The moment the two words same profession were heard, following the horrifying scream, the mercenary was sent flying out and his entire body knocked into the wall heavily. Joe. The other two mercenaries turned pale with fright as they looked at that bearded man with disbelief. What did this man just say, same profession? This little bodyguard is actually also a mercenary? Darn it. We shouldn't have let our guards down. Joe clambered up with much difficulty, but the moment he stood up, he was sent flying once again, and this went on a countless number of times. In the huge living room, there were resounding bangs came one after the other. It was the sound of his body crashing against the wall. The leader realized the situation wasn't in their favor and decided to join the fight. In the end, he just moved his feet when he saw a head of long hair flashing by. That long-haired man was blocking his way. Courting death, The leader howled furiously and waved his fist. Crash. In the next second, the long-haired man used the same technique as the bearded man and sent him flying across the room. The fatty narrowly dodged the incoming leader and immediately bellowed. Fuck. The one with the surname Tang. What are you flinging at, How dare you hurt my little crayfish? I'm going to fight it out with you. Damn it. The second mercenary, who was flung across, was in disbelief as he looked at the long-haired man who seemed so gentle and weak. Well, what's going on here? How could this guy be so terrifyingly skilled? No way. I have to think of a solution. The leader's eyes lit up, then he charged towards the fat chef in front of him. In the end, the moment he moved, the fat chef before him actually disappeared without a trace like a spirit. After some time, a cold and eerie voice rang out from behind him. Looking for me? The leader was scared out of his wits. He instinctively ran towards the exit, but when he reached the door, a kick sent him flying. The person who kicked him was the one he called Old Thing, the old housekeeper. Who exactly are these people? How could two C-rank mercenaries be left unable to retaliate at all? The mercenary who was grabbing the little Lolita noticed that the situation was unfavorable, and hurriedly let the little Lolita go and stepped forward to help. He pushed her away harshly and little Lolita's body swung violently. The little pink bunny-shaped necklace around her neck was yanked off and the crystal broke into pieces instantly. The little bunny master gave it to me. Little Lolita stood there in a daze and stared at the necklace on the floor. The innocence and cuteness gradually dissipated from her eyes and turned into a creepy, cold-blooded, murderous stare. The fatty at the opposite side was so cold that he sneezed. Ayaya, this is really bad. The bearded man gulped. He even stopped torturing the man. The mercenary was about to leave, but little Lolita, who was standing in front of him, grabbed him. After that, he heard a sweet-sounding voice. Little Gigi, where are you going? We're not done acting in this scene. Get lost. The mercenary didn't think much of it, and was about to toss her aside, but he realized the girl's hand was unmoving. You You killed my bunny, so you shall use your life to repay me then. In the next second, there was a loud slam. Her petite figure actually performed a shoulder throw on that tall and muscular man, and he crashed to the ground harshly. Chapter 901 Swish Swish Swish. Following that, there were over 10 knives shooting towards him like torrential rain, piercing through his flesh and directly pinning him against the floor. Each flying blade was close to cutting his main arteries. What do you think? Is this way of dying really cute, huh? Little Lolita narrowed her eyes and looked at him condescendingly. Ah! The mercenary was stupefied and felt an agonizing pain on every inch of his body. His entire body was pinned to the floor as he wailed miserably. Blood gushed out from over 10 gashes on his body. The air was filled with the stench of blood. Upon seeing the bloody, tragic outcome of their partner, the other 2 mercenaries were dumbstruck. The fatty gulped. Jiao Jiao, don't make such a big scene. The supper I painstakingly prepared for master hasn't been eaten yet. The old housekeeper looked at the floor that had the knives piercing it, and furrowed his brows. Didn't we agree not to damage the furniture? He spoiled my little bunny. It was given to me by master. Little Lolita stomped her feet with frustration. Who exactly sent these 3 people? Why did they push us into the fire pit like that? The 5 of them crowded around the 3 badly bruised mercenaries like they were looking at animals. And the 3 mercenaries were like little chicks. They were trembling and were completely stunned. Where did these people come from? That man was in so much pain that his body was twitching, but since he was pinned to the floor, he didn't dare to move at all, and could only moan nonstop. Presently, he finally remembered where he had seen these people before. You guys are. The terror in the mercenary's eyes intensified as he scanned these 5 people. They might seem like a messy group, like an old, weak and sickly group of servants, but thinking about it, everything actually all added up. You guys are the people from Kirin mercenary army. The mercenary said with his last breath. The faces of the other 2 mercenaries changed abruptly. How could that be? Kirin mercenary army would never accept such a lowly mission of protecting a master. The bearded man crossed his arms. Tisk, making a big fuss out of nothing. Who cares about the Kirin mercenary army? If they knew the organization we belong to now, that would scare them out of their wits. Master, how should we deal with these people? The fatty asked. Wait, how did they address this woman? Master. Mercenaries belonged to a mercenary army and only had a client and customer relationship with the bosses they were assigned to. They would never call their employer their master. This woman actually managed to subdue the top 5 experts from the Kirin mercenary army. How's this possible? The 3 mercenaries saw the fear in each other's eyes at the same time. Fire pit. How is this a fire pit? This is simply a living hell. Master, give them to Jiao Jiao, all right? Little Lolita spoke charmingly. Yi Wanwan glimpsed at the perfect plate of little crayfish in the fatty's hands. Not a single droplet of soup had spilled. She casually waved and said, Go ahead. No. The 3 mercenaries were terror-stricken. It seemed like the long-haired man and bearded man were the most skilled in martial arts among the 5 of them. They always moved together. But in fact, the most terrifying one was that little girl, who didn't seem like she was lethal at all. If anybody landed in her hands, that would be worse than death. Furthermore, they had just infuriated her. We're just here for the money. We were hired by someone. We don't know anything. The employer's identity must be kept secret, and you are all our seniors. You should know how it works too. We're not lying. Please spare us, senior. Spare us, senior. We have eyes but failed to recognize Mountain Tai. 1. After the 3 people were dragged away by little Lolita, the remaining few started to clean up the mess. Everything was as usual in the little house of Rose, like nothing had happened. Chapter 902 I'm useless. I messed up. What did you say? Upon hearing his confidant's report, seemingly snapped. Didn't you say nothing would go wrong? There are only 5 servants there, and you sent 3 C-rank mercenaries over. How could you mess up? His confidant trembled as he spoke. There were only 5 servants in that little house indeed, but those 5 people were all experts, And they're probably mercenaries as well, with a higher rank than those 3 people. Useless thing. What were you doing before? You're only telling me now that those 5 people are mercenaries. Seemingly was furious. His confidant actually didn't manage to find out such an important piece of information. And not only did he fail in completing this task, but he also alerted the enemy. If others found out about it, Seemingly would be so embarrassed. Ce Qian's face darkened. We were too careless this time. Seems like we can't underestimate the strength of those 5 mercenaries. With the number of people we can mobilize at the moment, I'm afraid we're no match for that woman. Seemingly raged. Are we just going to let this go? Ce Qian thought about it and said, of course not. Since we already did it, how could we just give up halfway? Father, since we already shed all pretense of cordiality, there's nothing we need to worry about anymore. Why don't you get Mr. Eric to help? See if he can transfer some people over. I think Eric would be very willing to help. Seemingly's eyes lit up. You're right. There's nothing to hide now. If Mr. Eric agrees, nothing would go wrong for sure. After all, with our current abilities, we can only hire C-rank mercenaries and under. Mercenaries who were above C-rank couldn't be hired with just money. They also had very stringent qualification checks on the employer. Darn woman. Does she think this is all we got? She thought just a few mercenaries would be enough to protect her? She's simply looking at the sky from the bottom of the well. 1. Victory Grand Hotel. Damn, my dog eyes. Nameless Nia looked at the little fellow in front of the mirror, and was almost mesmerized by his appearance. He's simply too adorable. He had to admit that although this little ancestor of his had quite a devilish attitude, his beautiful and delicate little face were deceptive. He really wanted to reach out and rub that little face. Nameless Nia went quiet for a long time and meditated before he finally calmed himself down, and wouldn't do anything to court his death. Little devil. Uncle. Nameless Nia. What is it? Nameless Nia replied in an instant, and even spoke in a much gentler tone without realizing it at all. This is truly a grievance of the appearance-obsessed party. Little devil. You may leave after you take me there. Nameless Nia didn't understand. Why? Little devil. With your IQ, if you say something wrong, it'll affect mommy's first impression of me. In other words, don't drag me down. Uncle Nia, who was criticized for dragging his nephew down, adorable. My ass. I knew this nephew could never be so cute. Little devil paused before he continued. Are you sure that the girl I saw in the video is my mother? That's right, that's right. That's her. What's the matter? Nameless Nia asked cautiously. Could it be that the little devil could tell, or maybe he wasn't satisfied and didn't like her? Little devil replied indifferently, nothing, let's go. Nameless Nia thought it might have been his imagination, but after hearing his confirmation, the little devil's little icy face seemed to have turned much gentler. Chapter 903. 903 Late at night, at a villa in the suburbs. Seemingly's face was extremely gloomy. He looked at Ce Qian sitting next to him and said, some mercenaries have accepted the mission already. Upon hearing that, Ce Qian laughed. Father, you don't have to be so angry about the incident before. It was just an accident. Chenji. Seemingly scoffed coldly, then turned to his confidant next to him and said, check things carefully this time, alright. Don't make the same mistake like before. You didn't even know that that woman had mercenaries by her side. I checked very carefully. Beads of cold sweat formed on his confidant's forehead and he said carefully, the people under Yi Wanwan were brought back by her from overseas, but whether she hired them as security guards or for some other reason, we don't quite understand for now. Seemingly turned to Ce Qian immediately and said, what do you think? Do those mercenaries have anything to do with in preparation? Kagwan, please wait a moment. After the updates, you need to refresh the page to get the latest updates. Chapter 904 At the dining table. Tang Long looked at Seemingly and Ce Qian and said politely, as for the mission this time, we somewhat have an understanding of the situation. Brother Tang Long, you're talking about the mercenaries protecting that woman? Ce Qian asked. Yes. Tang Long nodded, then took out a document, put on gold-rimmed glasses and opened the document. It's like this. The target has 5 people guarding her in total, and they're all professionally trained. The leader is called Old Demon Jiang, and there are 4 core members, 3 males and a female. Song Chang, Tang Bin, Heidi and Jiao Jiao. Among them, Jiao Jiao is the most skilled and has killed the highest number of people. She's also very vicious and ruthless, has the blood of over 100 lives on her hands, and is very cruel. Upon hearing that, Ximing Li and Ce Qian examined Jiao Jiao's description in the document, then turned to the gentle and refined Tang Long. Even this guy says the other party is cruel. He became an A-rank mercenary at such a young age, and his value exceeded being just the captain of the Noise of Dragons mercenary group. His reputation was great, and there was also the golden reputation of the Noise of Dragons mercenary group. One should never assume Tang Long's abilities based on his refined and well-mannered behavior at the moment. He was actually quite ruthless. However, Ximing Li had only heard about Tang Long secondhand. He wasn't sure whether Tang Long's past achievements were just hearsay or the truth. These people belonged to the Kirin mercenary army, and while they were in that army, they accepted 7 S-rank missions and succeeded in 2 of them. So they were only considered A-rank mercenaries. Previously, when they were transporting some goods, they actually betrayed the employer. It could be said that they are notoriously vicious and diabolical. This mission is really not an easy task. Then, Ximing Li was somewhat doubtful and wasn't sure what Tang Long wanted to say. Mr. C, I need an increase of 30% in my pay. If Mr. C is agreeable, I will carry out this mission this very instant. But if Mr. C is not agreeable, we'll just treat it like we've made some acquaintances today. Tang Long closed the document and smiled. Upon hearing what Tang Long said, Ximing Li frowned. They had already agreed on the fee earlier. Yet this Tang Long didn't care about the rules at all, and actually asked for a raise. Haha, sure, brother Tang Long, you're straightforward indeed. Alright, as long as you complete the mission, I'll increase your pay by 30%. Although Ximing Li wasn't very pleased about this, he didn't have a choice. Good, since Mr. C is agreeable, please sign this contract. Tang Long immediately took out a contract. Looking at the contract that was already prepared for him, the corners of Ximing Li's lips twitched. Seems like Tang Long already had me wrapped around his fingers. He even prepared the contract beforehand. Ximing Li's face darkened slightly, then he stood up and signed the contract. Mr. C, really sorry about that. I emphasize great importance in having a contract. After all, verbal confirmation is not as dependable compared to a signed contract. Tang Long tucked away the contract and chuckled gently. A contract like this obviously didn't have any legal significance, but the mercenary trade union agreed that if either party with a signed contract failed to perform his or her contractual duties, the mercenary trade union would come forward to resolve it. Farewell. At that moment, Tang Long straightened his top and stood up to leave with his men. Brother Tang Long, I want her alive. Ximing Li reminded him. All right, Mr. C, I understand. Tang Long led the way. He didn't even turn around and immediately left the restaurant. Little House of Rose. Master, I invented a new dish today. Try this, Phoenix Tailfire Prawn. I'm not bragging, but ordinary people would never get to eat this. The fatty held up a pot of red, juicy prawns and walked over to Yi Wanwan. Then he removed his apron and placed the prawns on the dining table. Chapter 905. 905. Yi Wanwan looked at the pan-fried prawns right in front of her and rubbed her rumbling tummy. Her eyes were filled with desire. However, her head told her she couldn't continue eating like this. These past 2 days she had eaten till she almost burst. But Yi Wanwan leaned in closer to the juicy prawns which looked and smelled so good. She took a little whiff. They smell heavenly. Jiao Jiao, come over and eat. Yi Wanwan stared at the little Lolita who was obsessed with her drama series, and called out to her reluctantly. Master, I'm not eating that. I'll get fat. Jiao Jiao looked pitifully at Yi Wanwan. At that moment, the old housekeeper walked inside and said, Master, I saw a child today and he was pacing in our yard. I'm not sure where he came from. A child? Probably from a family living nearby. Yuan didn't really mind. Before the old housekeeper could speak, 2 bangs resounded outside. They're gunshots. The old housekeeper immediately looked out the door. Little Lolita and Fatty stood up instantly and returned to their own rooms. A moment later, they returned to the hall. What's going on? The long-haired man and bearded man rushed to the hall when they heard the gunshots. I'm afraid they're here for us, little Lolita said. Probably the same group of people. Song Chong, Tang Bin, both of you protect Master while the 3 of us go out and take a look. The old housekeeper ordered. Okay. The bearded man nodded. Don't worry, with me guarding her here, I'll blast their brains out if he or she dares to come near. Changji, you're amazing, you're so cool. The long-haired man looked at the bearded man, and his eyes were filled with admiration. That goes without saying. Look at what kind of man Changji is, the bearded man sneered. While they were speaking, the fatty, old ghost Jiang and little Lolita charged outside instantly. Almost a second later, there were sounds of fighting coming from outside, followed by the sound of a chase. HNG, what a bunch of morons. They actually came all the way here to court death, the bearded man said. With Changji around, those people are simply asking for it, the long-haired man said with adoration. Yuan furrowed her brows. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Those mercenaries who showed up before were obviously targeting her, and didn't have much to do with little Lolita, old ghost Jiang, and the others. Initially, Yuan wanted to tell Si Yihan about that incident, but Si Yihan was still overseas at the moment, and she was afraid he would return immediately after finding out about it. She didn't want to interfere with his business, so she didn't end up telling him. May I know if anyone is home? Suddenly, there was a light knock on the door and a young man's voice. Master, the bearded man looked at Yuan. Go open the door. Yuan pondered for a moment before she answered. All right. The bearded man walked over immediately and opened the door. A couple of men dressed in black were standing there, and the man leading them was about 27 or 28 years old. Yet his hair was grayed, and he was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. He looked gentle and refined. You guys stay outside, Tang Long said to the mercenaries with him. Then he entered the hall by himself. Who are you? The long-haired man asked after seeing that Tang Long entered the hall unaccompanied. He was on guard. Upon hearing that, Tang Long revealed a harmless smile and said gently, Hello everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tang Long, the captain of Noise of Dragons mercenary group. Chapter 906, Noise of Dragons mercenary group. Tang Long. Upon hearing Tang Long's self-introduction, the bearded man and long-haired man were stunned. The Noise of Dragons mercenary group wasn't scary, but the captain of this group, Tang Long, was. The long-haired man and bearded man weren't dumb. They already knew what was going to happen the moment Tang Long appeared. I'll kill you. In a split second, the bearded man stretched his arm towards Tang Long. As long as he subdued Tang Long, nothing would happen. However, before the bearded man could get any closer, Tang Long leaned to the side slightly and lifted his right leg. Swish. In the hall, a sound broke the silence. All they saw was Tang Long with 2 hands in his pockets while his right leg swept outwards. His body moved in a flash and his movements were swift. The bearded man didn't even know what happened, and he was in disbelief as he was sent flying across the hall by an unbelievably strong force. How dare you hit my Changji? Watching this situation, the long-haired man bellowed and raised his palm, about to attack Tang Long. Sorry, I don't like to be rough, so I suggest you better stop. Tang Long had his arms behind his back, and he stood in the same spot as his body moved slightly. The long-haired man attacked him over 10 times, but Tang Long managed to dodge every single one of them easily. He didn't even manage to touch a strand of hair on Tang Long's head. You're courting death. The long-haired man was furious. This Tang Long is trying to embarrass me, huh? Seeing as the long-haired man was becoming more aggressive, Tang Long sighed softly. After that, he performed a move they had never seen before. His right elbow knocked harshly against the long-haired man's face. In the next second, the exact same thing happened to the long-haired man. He flew across and landed far away. You're dead meat. Tang Long, you can't be here. You've offended the master. While the bearded man was still jabbering on, Tang Long waved him off with annoyance and got his men to drag them out. Sorry, I've dirtied your room. Tang Long wiped the bloodstains on his hand, then bowed at Yi Wanwan as an apology. Who sent you guys? Yi Wanwan looked at Tang Long and asked coldly. Miss Yi, this is a secret mission. According to our code of conduct, we need to keep the identity of our employer confidential. So we are unable to tell Miss Yi. I hope Miss Yi doesn't mind, Tang Long said in a well-mannered way. How much did your employer pay you? I'll double it if you get rid of him for me, Yi Wanwan said. This person's movements were so quick that even Yi Wanwan couldn't see them clearly. He must have been an expert among experts. Yi Wanwan knew the extent of her abilities and knew there was no way she could be a match for this Tang Long. However, mercenaries only accepted assignments for money, and she could offer much more. Haha, Miss Yi, that's really very tempting. However, that does violate the rules of our profession. Tang Long laughed. I'll triple it, Yi Wanwan said. Miss Yi, very sorry, but this isn't about the money. Tang Long shook his head. 4 times more. Yi Wanwan put out 4 fingers. Unfortunately, I've already signed a contract. Otherwise, I might really make a deal with Miss Yi. Tang Long said helplessly. If he was a turncoat, the mercenary trade union would never tolerate it. 5 times, this is the highest I'll go, Yi Wanwan offered. Since that's the case, if Miss Yi survives this round, I would be more than willing to work with you in the future. But this time, I can't do anything about it, Tang Long said. Chapter 907. 907. Yi Wanwan knew in her heart that Tang Long, as a mercenary, wasn't picking on her personally. He accepted a mission from someone and signed a contract with the mercenary trade union. So Tang Long couldn't agree even if she offered him a payment that was 5 or even 10 times more. Is there really no other way? Yi Wanwan looked at Tang Long as she asked. Upon hearing what Yi Wanwan said, Tang Long shook his head and said softly, Miss Yi, I'm really sorry about that. I am a mercenary, and can only act according to my employer's wishes. However, Miss Yi, you don't have to worry about a thing. Master wants you alive, so I won't do anything to you. What happened to those 3 friends of mine? Yi Wanwan asked. She couldn't help but worry about Jiao Jiao and old Zhang's safety. With just one look, she knew Tang Long wasn't a simple person. Miss Yi, those 3 mercenaries have already been taken away by my men. Miss Yi, don't count on them to come back and rescue you. Even if they did, we would just have to recapture a few more people. Tang Long laughed. Upon hearing what Tang Long said, Yi Wanwan lost hope. She didn't want little Lolita, old Ghost Jiang and the others to be in trouble for her sake. Could you release those 2 people? Yi Wanwan tried to negotiate. Tang Long shook his head. Miss Yi, sorry about that. I can't do that. At that moment, Yi Wanwan looked at her phone subconsciously. It was ringing and the ringtone was somewhat different. She realized it was the ringtone she specifically set for Nameless Nia, Spray of Flowers and the others. If she could take this call and tell them about the situation. When it came down to it, whether it was the brick-moving lover or the fortune teller, any one of them could make Tang Long leave. Unfortunately, Yi Wanwan didn't have any chances of taking the call. Miss Yi, you can decide whether you want to leave with me or make me force you. Of course, I hope Miss Yi will cooperate. I don't like to get my hands dirty either. Tang Long smiled at Yi Wanwan. After she heard that, Yi Wanwan replied, Sure, I'll leave with you today. Just looking at how Song Chong and Tang Bin were defeated almost immediately, it wasn't hard to figure out that Tang Long was a super expert. They both used all their strength to fight him alone. Yet they didn't even have a chance to retaliate. Furthermore, from what Yi Wanwan saw, Tang Long wasn't serious at all when he was fighting with the 2 of them, so his true abilities were probably at least 10 times better than the previous mercenaries. Alright, thank you for cooperating, Miss Yi. Tang Long thanked Yi Wanwan, bowed slightly and stretched his arms out, showing her the way. Yi Wanwan walked out the door under Tang Long's supervision. Outside the hall, Tang Bin and Song Chong were already captured and in the car. Yi Wanwan got into another car under Tang Long's watchful eye. However, just as Tang Long and the others were about to leave, one of the mercenaries suddenly noticed a little boy in the yard from the corners of his eyes. The child was about 4 to 5 years old. He looked very alluring, and although he had a baby face, the child's gaze gave off an iciness that was way beyond his age. This child? Who are you guys? The mercenary was doubtful when the boy looked at him coldly, and was the first one to speak. Chapter 908. Seeing that the mercenary was silent, the little boy's gaze swept over the tattoo of a symbol on the side of his neck, and he mumbled to himself, "Noise of Dragons Mercenary Group." When the mercenary heard that, he was taken aback. How could a 4 or 5-year-old recognize Noise of Dragons Mercenary Group symbol? I must have heard this little boy wrong. According to their investigation, there were no children in the house, so how did this child coincidentally appear there? Whatever it was better to be safe than sorry. They should probably take him with them first. The mercenary immediately grabbed the little boy and threw him into the car. He wasn't sure if the little boy was frightened or traumatized, but the boy didn't make a sound and simply allowed the mercenary to put him in the car. At a spot hidden away, 2 figures suddenly got up and were about to take action. However, they were forced to retreat when they saw the little boy's eyes, and went back into hiding once again. "Captain, I just saw a little boy. He appeared at the garden out of nowhere." At first, the mercenary wanted to ask Tang Long for instructions, but he had already entered the frontmost car, and while he was asking, Tang Long sped off, making him swallow a mouthful of dust. At the moment, Yuanwan was stunned as she looked at the boy who was suddenly thrown into the car. Weren't these people here to capture me? Why did they capture a child as well? I've never heard of mercenaries in the kidnapping and extortion business. Furthermore, Tang Long doesn't look like the sort who likes doing this kind of business. Then what's with this little boy? Yuanwan was deep in thought. Very quickly, all her attention was on this little guy. The little boy was wearing a stunning sapphire blue little suit with a pink bow tie. His posture was upright, and he had a pair of unbelievably beautiful phoenix eyes. The outer corners of his eyes were slightly inclined, and they carried a tinge of arrogance and loftiness. Coupled with a sharp nose and thin lips, he was simply alluring and adorable. Whether it was his temperament or attitude, this child was different from ordinary children. He had a noble air around him that only a well-off family could foster. Damn. This little boy will destroy the country and cause suffering, when he grows up for sure. What sort of heaven-defying combination of genes produced a little child like him? Huh? Oh, wait a minute. Yuanwan looked at the boy a bit longer, and was suddenly stunned. Aside from his eye-catching clothes today, this child seemed really familiar, like she had seen him somewhere before. But what made Yuanwan surprised was how calm and composed he was after being thrown into the car. While Yuanwan sized the child up, the little guy was also looking at her. Yuanwan obviously noticed the little child's gaze on her. "Cough, which family do you belong to? Why did you get captured too?" The little boy's eyes lit up slightly. "You don't know me?" Yuanwan blinked. "Huh. Do we know each other? But the more I look at him, the more it seems like I really do know him." The little boy looked at her, and his gaze turned slightly colder. "Which family do you think I belong to?" This question is really strange, isn't it? Yuanwan was totally confused. But wow, too cute. He's even cuter with this icy look. My claws. Why do they feel like they're losing control? Hang in there. Seeing as Yuanwan was silent, the little boy's eyes turned gloomy. After some time, Yuanwan finally calmed down. She rubbed her chin, looked at the adorable little boy and smiled. "Oh, although I don't know whose family you belong to, I really wish you belonged to mine." Chapter 909. What Yuanwan said was heartfelt. It was pretty weird. This little boy, who was sitting about 4 to 5 feet away from her, gave her a feeling of familiarity. After hearing her answer, the little boy was taken aback. After some time he pursed his thin lips. "Is that so?" Yuanwan sighed. "But too bad, little boy." "Too bad what?" Yuanwan continued. "Too bad. How could I possibly have such an adorable kid?" "Who are your parents exactly? They're really great at making kids, huh?" "Little boy. That might not be the case." Yuanwan was talking to the little boy, when one of the mercenaries in front suddenly yelled at the man in the passenger seat. What the hell are you doing? Why did you bring a kid on board? The mercenary who captured the child replied. This kid showed up at the garden all of a sudden. It was a little weird, but I thought he might be somehow related to this woman. To prevent any issues from arising, we can just take him with us first. The mercenary who shouted furrowed his brows but didn't argue in the end. While they were talking, the car was slowly moving towards the suburbs. After about half an hour, the car stopped and Yi Wanwan and the little boy were brought into a dungeon. The little boy and Yi Wanwan were locked up together. Tang Bin and Song Chong were also tied up to a metal pillar by the side. Yi Wanwan scanned the dungeon, and it was quite similar to the Sea families. It was used for torture and interrogation. Where's the captain? One of the mercenaries asked. Captain left to meet with the employer and collect our payment. This mission is close to completion, so why would Captain stay here? Someone replied. At the moment, the long-haired man and bearded man looked at Yi Wanwan, who was locked up. They both looked at one another as a tinge of suspicion appeared in their eyes. How could that be? The bearded man frowned. Their master was the Rose of Death, right? How could the Rose of Death be captured? Initially, they thought Tang Long was in deep trouble. Their master would be fuming mad for sure, and she would rescue them. However, even their master herself was captured now. Could it be that this woman wasn't the Rose of Death at all? Weren't they doomed then? And they thought they found themselves an amazing backer. Had they been cheated? What exactly was going on here? How exactly are we going to deal with this child? A mercenary looked at the little boy locked up in the cell, and was at his wit's end. After some time, the mercenary gave Tang Long a call to ask for instructions. At first, Tang Long wanted to let the little devil go, but Si Mingli refused. If the boy was at the garden of the little house, he must be related to Yi Wanwan somehow. Both parties started a video call as per Si Mingli's request. Seeing as Yi Wanwan was locked up in the cell, Si Mingli smiled coldly. This woman was finally in his hands. Si Mingli? Yi Wanwan looked at the video call, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. When those C-rank mercenaries showed up before, she did guess Si Mingli was involved, but this time, how did Si Mingli manage to hire these people with these abilities? Could it be that there was something she didn't know in her previous life? The identity of Si Mingli's backer. She didn't expect to gain such an important piece of information this time. Haha, Yi Wanwan, Miss Yi, our future mistress of the Sea household. We meet again, Si Mingli said mockingly. Fourth uncle, I hope all has been fine since we last met. Yi Wanwan smiled faintly. Chapter 9:10. Upon seeing how Yi Wanwan was so indifferent, Si Mingli scoffed. This woman is still laughing at this point. Huh? Fourth uncle, you put so much effort and thought into capturing me. This is the third time you sent out mercenaries to look for me, right? Yi Wanwan said. Before, it was the C-rank mercenaries. She didn't even have to think to know it was Si Mingli's doing. And the first time, she was only able to escape thanks to help from that white-haired man. The third time. When he heard what Yi Wanwan said, Si Mingli was stunned. Including the C-rank mercenaries he hired last time. That was only twice. When was the third time? I'm afraid I've only tried to capture you twice. You probably offended someone else and had another encounter. That wasn't my doing. Si Mingli sneered. Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. As expected. What she said just now was merely to test Si Mingli. Since she was already in his hands, he had no reason to lie. Her guess was right. When she was saved by the white-haired man before, Si Mingli definitely wasn't involved. Now that she eliminated one suspect, who could the mastermind be? Oh right. How are we going to deal with this child who appeared near the little house of Rose? Just kill the child. Si Mingli replied without hesitation. Kill him. Upon hearing that, the few mercenaries were stunned. They had never killed a child before, and the boy was merely 4 to 5 years old. At that moment, Si Qian strode over slowly to the camera and looked at the little boy in the cell. He laughed. Everyone knows we can't have such incidents leaking out. It's best if we just deal with it once and for all. If anything goes wrong and the mission fails, none of you will get a single cent. All right then. The mercenaries nodded, took out a dagger on the spot, and unlocked the cell. Stop. Your target is me. It has nothing to do with this kid and I don't know him at all. You guys can confirm this fact yourselves. Yi Wanwan's eyes turned dark immediately as she secretly tried to escape from the rope around her wrists. She only just found out from what those people said that they hadn't captured this child intentionally. It was only because he was in the vicinity that they took him. However, before that child could protest, he was already captured. The little boy's face was expressionless as he looked plainly at Si Qian in the video call and said, "Reckless and blind." When Si Qian heard those 3 words, he was taken aback. "Little guy, what did you say?" "All my life, this is the very first time I've met someone declaring so brazenly that he wants to kill me," the little boy said, making sure every word was heard. When they heard that, Tang Bin and Song Chong, who were both wondering whether their backer was about to collapse, had strange looks on their faces. Did this kid watch too many shows? Does he think this is a game? Si Qian laughed and shook his head. This was his first time meeting such an interesting kid. "Do it," Si Qian ordered. He couldn't be bothered to continue talking nonsense with this kid. However, at the moment, a strange, icy smirk appeared on the little boy's face. "Before you guys do anything, my last name is Nia." Nia. Having heard what the little boy said, everyone was puzzled. What does he mean by that? Yi Wanwan, who was secretly trying to break free from the rope, showed a subtle change in her expression. Nia. Chapter 911. 911. The mercenaries looked at one another, confused. So what if his surname is Nia? Do you guys have any humanity? How could you kill a child? You guys have no conscience, huh? The long-haired man shouted coldly at the mercenaries. At the moment, although the few mercenaries didn't reply, they felt quite conflicted that they had to lay hands on a 4 to 5-year-old, whether it was part of their mission or not. Then one of the mercenaries turned to Si Mingli in the video and said, "Mr. Si, let us speak to our captain first." "What did you say?" Si Mingli was furious. He was the one who issued the mission, so he had the authority to get these mercenaries to act according to his wishes. "I think we should seek Captain Tang Long's advice," the mercenary repeated. "Tang Long just left to answer a call. He isn't back yet." Si Mingli was irritated. "Then we'll wait till Captain Tang Long comes back." The mercenaries tried to contact Tang Long, but his line was busy. "Forget it, father. They've completed their task. We'll just get our own people to settle this," said Si Qian, who was next to Si Mingli. When he heard that, Si Mingli pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement in the end. Anyway, Yi Wanwan was already in his hands. He could do whatever he wanted and wouldn't need these mercenaries to interfere. Si Mingli immediately made a phone call, and within a split second, Si Mingli's confidant brought a couple of men in black shirts and rushed into the dungeon. Seeing this, the mercenaries didn't have much to say. Their mission was to capture the target and bring her back and to kill if she resisted. They had now already brought her back, so from a certain perspective, the mission was completed. The confidant looked at Si Mingli in the video call and said, "Master, please advise. Kill the others aside from Yi Wanwan." The person speaking was Si Qian. "Even the child?" The confidant looked at the little devil not far off. "Every single one except for Yi Wanwan," Si Mingli said. "Noted. Don't worry about it, master." The corners of the confidant's lips curled upwards. His gaze swept past everyone and a sinister smile appeared on his face. "Just a few of you nobodies. Try touching us if you dare." The bearded man scoffed. The long-haired man chimed in. "Master will never let you guys off if you touch us." "Haha, I think all of you are asking for it." Si Mingli's confidant laughed. "Master? Are you referring to this woman, huh?" The bearded man and long-haired man were enraged when they heard that because they still didn't understand what their master was thinking at this point. Could it be that the Rose of Death's capabilities were limited? It took so long for them to finally find a backer, Ha 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 ha. Let me tell you the truth. The security in this place is 3 times that of the Si family's dark chambers. Even a fly can forget about leaving, so there's no hurry, let's take it slow. It'll be your turn very soon. You guys should treasure this time, and think about your last words. After speaking, the confidant arrogantly turned to his men. "Do it." Deal with this little one first. I'll fuck your father. Seeing that these psychopaths wouldn't even let a little child go, the bearded man bellowed in anger, and a hint of fear appeared in both their eyes. After they dealt with this child, it would be their turn. Was it really the end of the road for them both? Not only was the security extremely tight there, but the mercenaries present were also top experts, and it would be difficult to escape even if they had wings. Right at that exact moment, Tang Long with the gold-rimmed glasses was back. Chapter 912. 912. Si Mingli looked at Tang Long, slightly upset. Tang Long, you came at the right time. I merely wanted to capture one person, yet you guys complicated the issue and allowed a child to witness what was going on. I wanted them to kill him to silence him, but they didn't listen to my orders. Since this is the case, I can only do it myself. I think the professionalism of your Noise of Dragons mercenary group is lacking. This child. Tang Long suddenly spoke up, and immediately walked over to the camera. When he saw the little boy's face, Tang Long's eyes constricted instantly. Wait, this child. I saw him in Europe before. The Nie family's crown prince. How is this possible? Why would the little crown prince of the Nie family show up at this woman's house? But this doesn't matter at all right now. Let him go. Tang Long spoke without the slightest hesitation. Si Mingli furrowed his brows. What did you say? Tang Long. I said let this child go. Si Mingli was enraged. Tang Long. Have you lost your mind? Si Yiqian was also very upset with Tang Long's tone. I think you guys are the crazy ones. Do you have any idea who this child is? A tinge of darkness appeared on Tang Long's elegant face. He was so irritated that he removed his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. He's just a little bastard, and judging by the way he dresses, his family probably has some money and power, that's all. A hint of disdain appeared in Tang Long's eyes as he emphasized every word he said. This child's surname is Nie. So what if his surname is Nie? This kid already said it himself just now. There are only a few families with the surname Nie. Even if they found out I killed this kid, who would dare to say no? Si Mingli said loftily. This child already said his surname is Nie. It's him indeed. I didn't mistake him for someone else. Tang Long was certain he hadn't gotten the wrong person. He chuckled and looked at Si Mingli and Si Yiqian like he was looking at a dead person. TSK, the Nie family from Imperial City? Who told you that? It was the Nie family from Imperial City. At the same time, the ferocious-looking thug made his way towards the little boy. Yi Wanwan's gaze became frostier. Looking at the little boy who was about to be killed, she suddenly had a sharp pain in her head. The little boy silently stood in the same spot. He was indifferent and spoke with a slightly condescending tone that had a tinge of pity. Looks like you guys still don't understand the meaning of the Nie clan. What dogshit Nie clan? Little bastard. Even if your family has great power and influence, you still have to die here today. The hired thug spoke, and his wide palms brought a horrifying deadly force as he grabbed the child forcefully. In the next second, bang, the image of the video call shook violently. The hired thug, who was about to murder the little boy, flew across the room like a kite with a broken string, although he was about 1.9 meters tall and muscular. What happened? Si Mingli and Si Yiqian froze. Their faces nearly touched the camera lens. All they saw was that the entire door behind the cell was knocked down from the outside, and two lean men in black shirts appeared before everyone. The two men directly walked towards the little boy, then lowered their heads respectfully. Young master. Young master? Si Mingli's confidant, the hired thug, and Si Mingli and Si Yiqian, who were on the video call, were all completely stunned. Nobody expected that someone would be able to barge in like that. Chapter 913. 913. Si Mingli, Si Yiqian, the hired thug, and all the mercenaries at the scene didn't expect that someone would actually barge in. Even Yi Wanwan was dumbstruck. As she listened to how those two men in black shirts were greeting the little boy respectfully as their young master, she was even more surprised. What are all of you standing there for? Seize them. Si Mingli yelled. Damn it, how was it possible for them to barge in? He looked at the intruders for a long time and realized that there were only 2 people. They probably took advantage of a loophole in the guards' defense. Is this how my guards do their jobs, huh? They only know how to enjoy free meals. Tang Long looked at those 2 people treating the little boy with great respect and ordered sternly, "Members of Noise of Dragons mercenary group, listen up. None of you are allowed to attack." When the mercenaries, who were about to attack, heard their captain's orders, they immediately stopped what they were doing. "Mr. Tang, what do you mean by this?" Ce Qian said in an unfriendly tone. Tang Long responded casually, "Nothing much. In order to ensure the safety of our mercenaries, we will try our best to complete the mission, but at the same time, we won't make sacrifices for nothing. Furthermore, this matter is no longer within the scope of our mission." "Not within the scope? I'll issue this task right now then. Kill all these people right now and I'll pay twice the agreed price for this mission." Upon hearing what Ce Qian said, the mercenaries' eyes lit up instantly, but they didn't dare to respond due to Tang Long's orders. Ce Qian continued, "Triple." The moment he said that, one of the mercenaries, who was wearing a uniform that was a darker color than the rest, stepped forward. "I'll accept this mission." The other mercenaries were stunned. "Vice Captain," Captain said, "we're not allowed to attack." Tang Long's face darkened. "Guodi, you're not allowed to take it." The vice captain of the Noise of Dragons sneered and looked towards Tang Long on the video call. "Captain Tang, you're no doubt the captain of Noise of Dragons, but I am the vice captain, and as the vice captain, I have the authority to choose my own missions. You have no power to interfere." Tang Long narrowed his eyes. "If you insist on taking this mission, you'll be responsible for the consequences." Guodi said scornfully, "Consequences? What kind of consequences would there be for dealing with a kid and 2 servants? Captain, are you trying to interfere with my freedom?" Tang Long smiled faintly and suddenly recovered his elegant and calm expression. "That's right. It is indeed your choice to take on any missions. Do as you please then." As the captain, it was his responsibility to remind him, and he had already done that. Guodi scoffed, then glanced at the hired thug, who was sent flying to the wall. "What a useless bum." In the corner, the little boy looked coldly at a guy in a black shirt. The man got the hint and nodded slightly, then the lean man placed both arms behind his back and slowly made his way towards Guodi slowly. "Would you like to kill yourself, or do you want me to do it? Do you know who you're talking to? I think you're the one who's courting death." Guodi became enraged instantly and drew a long, shiny sword somewhere from his body. Upon seeing this, Si Mingli and Ce Qian chuckled. This vice-captain of the Noise of Dragons was very skilled, and was second only to Tang Long. Yi Wanwan's heart was almost at her throat. These mercenaries were top-notch experts. They were even better Tang Bin and the others, and as the vice-captain, Guodi had abilities that were obviously much scarier. She always thought her own skills were already great, but faced with these people, she realized how weak and small she was. Chapter 9:14 Vice-Captain Guo, quick, finish them. Si Mingli's confidant sneered. Hee, don't worry. They're just a couple of nobodies, Guodi mocked. Swish. Guodi charged forward towards the lean man in a flash with his sword held horizontally, like he wanted to slice the lean man in half. However, just as Guodi's sword touched his target, the lean man moved to the left and dodged Guodi's attack within a split second. Son of a bitch, you're pretty lucky, huh? Guodi sneered. He exerted all the strength he had and the sword sliced the air, breaking the silence. The lean man was expressionless, and there was a tinge of boredom in his eyes. Right at that moment, the lean man finally raised one of his hands that was behind his back. Clang! The sound of gold chains interlocking echoed throughout the place. At this moment, everyone present stood rooted to the ground, especially the long-haired man and bearded man. Their eyes constricted, and they both had a look of disbelief. Even Yi Wanwan couldn't help exhibiting a subtle change in her expression. Everyone witnessed how that lean man actually only used 2 fingers to block the sword Guodi was trying to slice him with. Guodi was in disbelief as he looked at the lean man, who looked completely indifferent. Guodi looked like he had just seen a ghost. This lean man actually used his fingers to block the sword he had used all his strength to slash him with. According to the norm, shouldn't the lean man's fingers have been instantly sliced off by his sword? Impossible. Guodi bellowed and went all out, trying to retract his sword from the lean man's fingers. However, the lean man's fingers were like a huge mountain. He kept holding onto the sword. Even when Guodi used all his strength, the sword remained wedged between his fingers without budging at all. Swish. In the next second, nobody saw what the lean man did exactly, but he seemed to have turned his wrist and the sword was seized by him. Before Guodi could return to his senses, the lean man already had the sword in his hands and simply ran it across both of Guodi's arms. After that, the lean man didn't even turn his head as he strode over to the little boy's side. Accompanied by a blood-curdling screech, both of Guodi's arms were sliced off just like that. This bloody scene left everyone at the scene dumbfounded. Guodi rolled on the floor in pain. This is impossible. Impossible. Even with his skills, both his arms were simply chopped off by this person within 3 moves. Guodi rolled on the ground and looked at the cold-blooded lean man. Suddenly, a sense of fear he had never felt before crept up. You, who exactly are you? Si Mingli and Si Qian on the video call also had the same question as Guodi. Just what is going on here? Si Mingli was stunned. Even someone like Guodi was tortured like that by this person. What kind of terrifying power did the little boy's backer have? It might be possible that he was even more powerful than Mr. Eric. This thought made him extremely anxious. Si Qian forced himself to maintain his composure. That's impossible. There are only 2 families with the surname Nie in Imperial City. One of them is in the Eastern City and they are in the real estate business, while the other is. Tang Long glanced at the 2 of them plainly. He revealed a look of pity like he was looking at 2 ignorant ants and said softly, "This child's Nie family is the one and only Nie clan on a standalone island in Northern Europe." Chapter 915. 915. The moment Tang Long said that, Guodi, who was lying in a pool of blood and wailing in pain, was completely stunned to the point where he almost forgot his pain. He looked at the little boy's face like he had seen something extremely horrifying. Nie family, the Nie clan on the standalone island. Then this child is, Tang Long chuckled. Vice Captain Gua, what do you think? Guodi was in a daze. He mumbled in an almost imperceptible voice. The little crown prince of the Nie family. It wasn't only Guodi. Even those mercenaries standing by the side were so scared that their faces turned pale. There was dead silence in the air. At that moment, Guodi, who was still rolling on the floor a moment ago, suddenly stood up swiftly and charged at the lean man. To be precise, he charged towards the sword in his hands. In the next second, Guodi placed his neck against the lean man's sword and moved along the length of the sword. He fell to the floor, and there was no breath in him anymore. Seeing that Guodi was so terrified that he killed himself with the sword, the other mercenaries didn't even dare to breathe. Everyone was glad they listened to their captain's orders and didn't attack. Si Mingli and Si Qian looked at the screen, then they looked at each other in disbelief and didn't say a word. Northern Europe, standalone island. Nie clan. These 6 words were like an atomic bomb that caused both of them to be scared out of their wits. Initially, they didn't even know what standalone island meant, much less the Nie clan. They only found out about the standalone island through Mr. Eric. According to Mr. Eric, a long time ago, during the Middle Ages, there was a highly accomplished martial artist in China who arrived at a faraway island in Northern Europe. The martial artist settled down on that small island and brought over the mysterious ancient Chinese martial arts culture, which attracted many martial arts experts from all over the world. After more than 100 years of development and changes, the faraway little island gradually became prosperous and strong. It came under the control of a few formidable family clans. However, following the invention of firearms, weapons and ammunition, the age of cold weapons slowly withdrew from the limelight and the martial arts culture declined. In order to protect themselves, the standalone island went under the radar and concealed their strength as they gradually vanished from the public eye. But even though their numbers had greatly reduced, The standalone island was still extremely strong, and they controlled the economies of various parts of the world, such as the Mercenary Guild, Martial Arts Union, and other important powers. Whether it was the world's top mercenary, or someone from the so-called capable and influential aristocratic families, they might be worth nothing at all when dropped on that standalone island. Any hidden family or ancient aristocratic family on the standalone island was extremely powerful compared to anyone from the outside world. The standalone island was currently controlled by 4 family clans, namely the Nye, Ji Ling, and Shen family. The Nye family was the leader of the 4 great family clans. It was evident how scary the Nye clan was, and right now they had actually kidnapped the little crown prince of that Nye family. The person who tried to kidnap the little crown prince before had his entire family clan exterminated in the end. Looking at Si Mingli and Si Yiqian's pale faces, Tang Long revealed a look of sympathy and said, "Considering that this was the first time we worked together, I'll give the 2 of you a word of advice. Leave China as soon as possible." TSK, an ignorant person is truly fearless. Those 2 people had been working behind the scenes from the beginning and hadn't revealed their faces at all. But if the Nye clan wanted to look for them, it would be a piece of cake. Chapter 9:16 Si Mingli and Si Yiqian didn't hesitate at all, and immediately ended the video call. "Run. We have to run quickly. Otherwise, we'll be dead meat." The 2 of them just couldn't figure out how things ended up this way. They were merely trying to capture Yi Wanwan, but in the end, they actually captured the little crown prince of the standalone island Nye clan as well. That's the Nye clan's little crown prince. How did we even manage to capture him? They had countless questions swarming around their heads, but they didn't have the time or energy to think anymore, and couldn't care less about Yi Wanwan. They had to get out of China and seek shelter with Mr. Eric. Si Mingli's hired thugs scattered instantly, and Tang Long personally went down to the dungeon. Tang Long walked over to the little boy. He placed both arms across his chest and bowed. "Young Master Nye, sorry for scaring you during your travels. I hope you forgive my men for their ignorance. The Noise of Dragons mercenary group can't thank you enough." With the young Master Nye's status, how could he be so easily captured by them? Then there was only one possibility. He had a motive behind allowing them to capture him. If that was the case, there might still be a chance that these people could be spared. He should be thankful that the Noise of Dragons mercenary group had strict training and wouldn't make things difficult for women and children. And these mercenaries hadn't harmed the little crown prince. Otherwise, he really wouldn't dare to imagine what the consequences might have been. The little boy turned to Yi Wanwan, who was in the cell, and his face was covered in frost. His mother had seen too much blood today. Since they hadn't harmed his mother, "You guys may leave." Upon hearing that, Tang Long heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly signaled to his teammates with his eyes. The few of them, who were scared stiff, quickly retreated with Tang Long. Before they left, Tang Long looked in Yi Wanwan's direction and revealed a thoughtful expression. The young master of the Nye family suddenly came to China, and even appeared close to this woman's house out of the blue. It seems like this is something worth pondering over. After everyone left, there was only Yi Wanwan, Tang Bin, and Song Chong left in the dungeon. Yi Wanwan was deep in thought about what those people said regarding the standalone island of the Nye family. The little boy immediately ordered, "Go over." It only took a glance from the little master, and the man immediately understood what he wanted. He strode over to Tang Bin and Song Chong. Tang Bin and Song Chong didn't know the standalone island existed, so they obviously didn't know about the Nye clan at all. They were only concerned about which power would allow such a scary expert to be a child's bodyguard. Just now, only one of the bodyguards took action, and the other didn't even have to do anything at all. Damn. This is insane. Even the captain of the Noise of Dragons mercenary group was so respectful towards him. Exactly. Who exactly is this little boy, huh? The 2 of them were exclaiming in shock when they suddenly saw one of the bodyguards walking over to them. Tang Bin and Song Chong were scared out of their wits. "Don't, big bro, we're not the bad guys." Right. We were captured as well." Seeing the horrifying, beast-like man coming towards them, the 2 of them were terrified. Clang. Their locks were cut with a knife. The lean man simply cut the ropes and chains around their 4 limbs. Tang Bin and Song Chang froze. After that, they heaved a sigh of relief. So he was helping us. This really scared us to death. The two of them were about to thank that person when he turned around and walked towards Yuan. Chapter 917. 917. After moving his knife around swiftly and breaking Yuan free, those 2 beastly bodyguards suddenly went down on one knee and were extremely respectful. Second Missy, we were late and caused you to be frightened. Yuan Tang Bin Song Chang. Second Missy? Tang Bin and Song Chang looked at those 2 scary human weapons, down on their knees in front of Yuan, and were completely stunned. Damn. What? These 2 beasts were actually Master's men? Shit. Then how terrifying is Master's true strength, huh? Just a while ago, they thought their backer had collapsed, but right now, a strong backer was rising quickly from the ground. This was too exciting. Yuan looked at the 2 men on their knees before her, then she glanced at Tang Bin and Song Chang, whose eyeballs were nearly coming out of their sockets. She was completely stupefied. What the hell? Second Missy? Are they referring to me? At this moment, after Tang Bin and Song Chang returned to their senses, they went over excitedly and started speaking one after another. Tang Bin was starry-eyed and filled with adoration. Master, we thought you were really captured. You were already so well prepared, huh? Yuan. No. The truth is that I was really captured, Before Yuan could finish, Song Chang interrupted. I knew it. Master, you're actually so amazing, We had a really shallow understanding of you. The 2 of us brothers will pledge our lives to follow you, Master. Yuan. I think these 2 people actually got the wrong person. Tang Bin chimed in. He was so moved that he nearly cried. Master, you're a fairy from the highest of the heavens. It's our blessing that you accepted us to be under your leadership. Song Chang. Master, you didn't make a move at all this time to teach us a lesson, right? We'll work harder in future. Master, please don't give up on us. Yuan. Could the 2 of you calm down a little and listen to what I have to say? Also, could you guys stop imagining things? Yuan looked at the 2 bodyguards and was confused. She was sure she didn't know them. What's going on with these people? They even called me Second Missy? She was indeed the second in the Yi family. Yi Mu Fan was the first. But it wasn't normal for these 2 people to address her as Second Missy in such a formal way, right? Tang Bin wasn't sure if he was imagining things or not, but while they were speaking to Master, he felt the temperature in the air decreasing slightly. Tang Bin instinctively turned to the little boy next to him. Oh right, Master. What's your relationship with this little boy? At this moment, Yuan's head was a mess. She was vexed, so she simply replied, You're asking me? Who should I ask then? How am I supposed to know? I really have no idea who he is, Yuan had a headache as she pinched her brows. When she said that, the little boy with his perfect little porcelain face suddenly stepped forward and made his way towards her. Yuan choked a little and probed. A little friend, hello. May I ask who you are? The little boy lifted his little head and looked at her with his clear eyes. He spoke in a child's voice and said, Hello, my surname is Nia and my name is Tang Xiao. I am 5 this year, and from a biological point of view. Nia Tang Xiao paused before he continued. You and I have a mother and son relationship. After which, the little fella extended his little arm. Mommy, nice to meet you. Please take care of me. Yuan Mini Theater. Yuan. Today must be April Fool's Day. How could I possibly have a son? Author Jiang. That's right, it's April Fool's Day today. But the sun is real, oh. Chapter 918 Mo Mother. Yuan felt as if 9 lightning strikes were coming at her at once. At the same time, all the dots on her head started to connect. This child said his surname was Nia, and Yuan thought he looked very familiar when she first saw him. Now he suddenly told her that he was her son. And I definitely don't have a son. So, this child might be nameless Nia's nephew. Everything was a mess lately, and although she had her suspicions, she hadn't thought about it too much. She only saw that child over a video call, and didn't really see his face clearly. Also, this child's clothes were very different from the child in the video call that day. He was dressed in all black before. So, she only felt he was vaguely familiar and really didn't recognize him at all. The most important thing was why hadn't that nameless Nye guy mentioned this beforehand, so she could prepare herself, huh? In the end, she didn't suspect that this child was nameless Nye's nephew at all. At the moment, Yuanwan was staring blankly at the little fella in front of her, and was about to lose her mind. That idiot nameless Nye. How could he not have informed me at all? I wasn't prepared for this. Who's going to tell me anything? What am I going to do now? This is unbelievable. I should simply just quit and not do anything. The little boy still had his little arm extended at this point, and he was looking at her with his little head. Seeing the little fella's empty little hand, Yuanwan came to her senses and her heart softened. She extended her arm and shook the little guy's tiny hands gently. Hello. The little guy stared at his tiny hand held by Yuanwan and pursed his lips. He looked even cuter than before. The two bodyguards behind him looked at each other at the same time. Young master actually allowed someone to touch him. Tang Bin and Song Chong had just calmed themselves down from the excitement, and had to go through another round of excitement. They were completely dumbfounded now. Whoa. This little boy is actually the master's son. Master actually has a son this age already? And it seems like master didn't even recognize her own son, eh? She's truly worthy of being the master. She's awesome. I wonder how many peach blossoms debt she has, huh? After saying just hello, Yuanwan was stuck and she racked her brain for something to say for a long time but couldn't come up with anything. Yuanwan. Nya Tang Xiao, right? Can I call you Tang Tang? The little fella nodded. Okay. Yuanwan had a headache as she took a deep breath. She hadn't colluded and planned with nameless Nye beforehand, so she could only improvise right now. So Yuanwan said, So you're Tang Tang, really sorry about that. Mommy didn't recognize you just now. I talked to your uncle before and wanted to visit you, but I've been too busy lately so my visit was delayed. Little boy. That's okay, mommy is busy. I can visit mommy myself. Yuanwan's heart inexplicably melted after she heard that. What an obedient child. Why did nameless Nye keep talking badly about him, and called him a little devil? Yuanwan immediately gritted her teeth when she thought of nameless Nye. Where's your uncle then? Didn't he come along with you? That bastard nameless Nye. Where did he go? I can't handle this on my own. The little fella replied. Uncle dropped me off and left. Yuanwan nodded. Oh, I see. Chapter 919, 919. Alas. Yuanwan brought the little fella back to the little house of Rose, and was completely stupefied throughout the journey. Yuanwan only had one thought in her mind the entire time. How am I going to take care of this child? She had no experience at all. When they arrived at the entrance, Yuanwan's eyes lit up instantly as she looked at the two bodyguards. Oh right, these two people were there and they had obviously been by Nye Tang Zhao's side all along. They were probably familiar with his diet, habits, and lifestyle. Then, the both of you. Before Yuanwan could speak, Nye Tang Zhao turned to the two bodyguards and said in a childlike voice, The two of you may leave. Mommy will take care of me. They didn't hesitate at all when they heard his orders. Yes. The two of them then left in a flash and completely disappeared. Yuanwan extended her arm. Hey, don't go. They actually left just like that. Are you for real? How could you guys just leave such a young child alone here with me? I have no idea how to take care of a child. Yuanwan stared at the little milk bun before her, and nearly broke down in tears. Finally, Yuanwan felt resigned to her fate. Yuanwan turned to the two men behind her. Tang Bin, Song Chong, go look for Qiao Qiao and the others. Since Tang Long already promised he wouldn't harm them, they should be fine. Yes. The two of them immediately went to look for the others and in the end, they found the three people in the attic. The three people were fine. They were just tied up and left in the attic. After they found them, Tang Bin and Song Chong hurriedly cut them loose. How did you guys come back? What about Master? Is she in danger? How could Master be in any danger? Even if anyone was in danger, it would be the other party. The three of them obviously thought their master's hidden power got them out of there and saved them. Indeed, but we really underperformed this time and didn't do our best to protect our master. We must apologize and beg for forgiveness from Master. Old Jiang said. The others agreed as well. So, the few of them swiftly went downstairs. Just as they were about to beg for forgiveness, they saw from afar that their master actually had a little child by her side. A master merely went out for a while. How did she bring a child back? The fatty was stunned. Old Jiang was suspicious too. Tang Bin, Song Chang, what's going on? How did you guys come back? Ah, kawaii. So adorable. Whose baby is that? Where did he come from? Jiao Jiao's attention was glued to the little boy. Tang Bin and Song Chang looked at one another and said, Ours. This little boy is Master's son. What? Master's son? Jiao Jiao was so shocked that she covered her mouth. Damn. The fatty gasped loudly. How's that possible? What's with the surprise? We heard it ourselves. The fatty stared at the little boy. He looked slightly amazed and said, Not to mention that, he really looks a little like Master, eh? This little face of his. Looks exactly like our master, right? Tang Bin agreed. Yes, even you guys think so. Changji and I thought they looked alike too. Song Chang rubbed his chin and said, Young Master does look like Master, but his temperament and character are quite different, right? Weird. The fatty rolled his eyes. You're making such a big deal out of it. What's so weird about it? His character might not be like Master's, so he must be like his daddy. Tang Bin and Song Chang nodded. That makes sense. Chapter 920. 920 Yi Wanwan was too occupied with the little boy that she didn't have the time to worry about those 5 people, and merely overheard them saying that this child looked like her. Yi Wanwan only noticed it now. It was quite imperceptible to her at first, but now that they mentioned it, he did look a little like her, huh? However, Nameless Nia already told her that she looked similar to his sister, so it made sense for this child to look a little like her. Yi Wanwan gave the 5 of them looks of warning, and ordered them to get to work. The 5 of them, who were gossiping in full swing, then scattered like birds. Master definitely didn't have the time to worry about them. In just a moment, the living room was left with only Yi Wanwan and Nia Tangxiao alone. Yi Wanwan dragged a huge pile of snacks out, and even prepared a glass of orange juice for the little fella. Then she sat on the sofa in the living room with him. Nia Tangxiao sat upright in preparation. Kagwan, please wait a moment. After the updates, you need to refresh the page to get the latest updates. Chapter 921. 921 Late at night. Si Mingli's family fled the country. Just Si Yihan's side alone was enough to beat them black and blue. Not to mention the Nye clan. Thankfully, they were careful enough and had always been making moves behind the scenes without showing their faces at all. Otherwise, they would have nowhere to hide. Damn it, that woman's lucky. Si Mingli was upset. Father, what's most important is retaining our power. As long as we have Mr. Eric, we can make a comeback sooner or later. Si Yiqian persuaded. Let's go. Si Mingli gritted his teeth and finally got onto the helicopter reluctantly. Seeing Imperial City beneath them getting farther and farther away, he had a darkness in his eyes. Si Yihan and that little bitch. I'll be back again. Country M. There was complete silence in the spacious presidential suite. Si Yihan sat on the sofa with a gloominess between his brows. A youth in a black suit stood in front of the man with a solemn look and reported, Madam is back in the little garden house. Before our men arrived, she had already left. There was another group of power who appeared and helped her, but we haven't gotten information about where this power came from yet. We'll make sure to find out soon. Although the 5 people in the little house of Rose were experts, as a safety precaution, Si Yihan had still sent his man over secretly. His men didn't show up earlier because Si Yihan wanted to find out who the mastermind was. Otherwise, it would be like cutting the grass without pulling the weeds out. There would be no end of trouble in the future. However, he didn't expect that before his men could make a move, another power appeared out of nowhere. Yi Han wrapped his fingers against the icy-cold glass coffee table, an indication of his uneasiness. Although he had already made sure she was very safe, he still had a bad feeling in his heart. After Yi Wanwan brought the little fella back, she encountered another troublesome issue. Where's Tang Tang going to stay? Yi Han would return very soon, and if Tang Tang lived with her, it would definitely be inconvenient. What if Yi Han saw him? However, she couldn't just let such a young child live somewhere else by himself. After all, he came all the way there to see his mother. Tang Tang, take a seat first. Mommy will go settle some stuff. I'll be back real soon. Yi Wanwan said gently. Nya Tang Xiao. Okay. Yi Wanwan took her phone out and walked out to the courtyard. Behind her, Nya Tang Xiao looked at the back figure of the girl rushing out, and his eyes dropped. After Yi Wanwan was in the courtyard, she immediately tapped open a WeChat group with the 5 people and typed furiously. Famous Yi, name. Les. Nye. Come out right now. There was silence in the group chat. Not a single person replied. Yi Wanwan didn't have any other choice. She could only grit her teeth and send a red pocket. In the end, nobody accepted the red packet at all this time. Yi Wanwan scoffed and sent a $100 red packet. Still, not a single person accepted it. Strictly speaking, nobody dared to accept it. At this moment, under a certain bridge in Imperial City, there were 5 people squatting there secretly. After viewing the messages in the WeChat group, Nameless Nye's hands shivered. He looked at his men and said, all of you return to Famous Yi. Spray of Flowers, who almost tapped open the red pocket, restrained his hands which were almost going out of control, and he shook his head with terror. What? I'm not going. Stinking devotee, you go. Quick. Captain is calling you. Your captain's most trusted confidant. You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.